What is up, DMV basketball fans? There are a lot of good DMV hoopers here, especially in the high school ranks, and nobody knows them better than our guest here today, Colby Giacubeno from Inside Maryland Sports and Made Hoops. Colby, you're the guy for this, and there was just a big event this weekend, so I'm glad we could catch up.
Yeah, no, always a fun time of year, Matt, as the high school season tips off, and for a lot in terms of like a national standpoint, we've had a few more events come into the fold, obviously. Prior to the what we used to call National Hoop Fest. But it's kind of like the official tip to the high school season, if you will. And it's a great event every year. Teams coming from around the country and challenge the some DMV teams, and then they'll square off against each other. So just a really good way to introduce the high school season.
Yeah, this is going to be a thing for next year. This is an event I would suggest everybody go see if it's going to be at DeMatha again. That was a really good place to see it. It's the National High School Hoops Festival. Super cool. I got to check out Saturday. So I know I missed a couple of the other good games. Our basketball quality overall was maybe not as high the game that we got to check out there on Saturday, but that's okay. We still got to see some of the big names. But first, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard every flavor you can think of. And BetOnline, it continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds and everything from football, NBA, college, NHL, UFC, all the sports you can think of. Head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Colby, maybe just the best place to start was the biggest name in the event from the DMV guys, I would say, and that's Nate Ament from Highland High School. He was pretty impressive. It wasn't one of his biggest scoring outbursts, but I think the way he scored, especially in that Saturday game, a couple deep threes with a hand in his face, it's like a jumbo wing guard almost, and just was super impressive. Just what were your takeaways from Nate on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the high school scene closely, it's not breaking news that, he's the full package pretty much with a ton of upside to be, tapped into. But he's just your prototypical, as you said, Matt, 6'9", really closing in on 6'10", jumbo playmaking, wing, stretch four, big, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, I think Highland was in two defensive battles over the weekend, specifically, on Saturday against Sidwell. Probably wasn't the easiest game to watch from an aesthetic standpoint. And when people show up, if you're an out-of-towner or you're a local that just wants to get, up close and personal with Nate Ament, you would like to see a 75 to 68 type of game. But it was Sidwell is involved, so it's going to be a much slower paced game. If you know, but yeah, no, I think what I was impressed with Nate in particular was, so in Nate's development over high school has been interesting to watch. And I think once he is really, taken off into a national spotlight, if you will, you can credit that towards his overall aggression and ability just to take over a game and control a game from his position.
Yeah.
So, once you saw that, you saw a lot of the uptick in recruitment, the blue bloods move in, there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of stuff to work here. Once we got to, I would say spring and then June. But then that next progression, I believe, is, really just dictating the game no matter, and taking whatever the defense gives you, and taking advantage of any mismatch that is thrown at you. And let's face it, there's just not too many high school teams that have somebody that can match up with him man to man. And I think, one of the teams that they may have played earlier this season with Utah Prep, AJ DeMatha, that's one in itself. But you go past AJ DeMatha, Cam Boozer, there's other guys out there, but
it's a short list.
Yeah, in terms of, pound for pound with all of that, not too many guys can match up against Nate. What I liked about him was just the way that he operated in those areas. If they had a smaller, I would say 2 to 3, guard or wing that may have been a little bit more physical or quicker and trying to press up on him, he didn't allow it to speed him up. He eventually just kind of methodically worked his way into the mid post, change of pace type of half spins, and then he just got to his spot, easy fades, over the shoulder hooks, just made everything look really easy. And then on the flip side, when there was a big on him, that's when you had mentioned, like, maybe he's trailing in transition and he gets a dump off from a guard and he pulls up from three, or he's leading the break himself, and that big's kind of preparing for him for the burst to get to the rim, and it never comes because he just has enough space. I'm going to get my three off. So just the totality of his game is really coming into form. And I think what is even more impressive, because, don't get it twisted, that Highland team is good. They got four other seniors, and they're all like kind of on the borderline D1 guys, D1 very, very, very good D2 guys, playing around Nate. But there is no other blue chip star next to him, and he lifts all those guys up. And I think that's what elite players can do. We've seen, again, guys like Cam Boozer do that with his teammates. And so you're just really starting to see all that blossom. And that's what makes all this so fun.
There were a couple other guys, of his similar ranking level in this event, I think, that, maybe forced the issue a little bit. It never felt like Nate was forcing anything, at least in the game I saw. It was all very easy. I think you mentioned it, within the flow of the offense kind of stuff. And he did it in a variety of ways. And I also, the last time I saw him, the handle was a lot looser than it looked this time when he did have guards on him. Like you said, he didn't seem sped up or pressured. And he was able to just kind of drive right by the bigger, slower guys they put on him. But he also rebounded. Like he's sometimes you can see guys and it's like a skinny 6'9", basically shooting guard. They don't want to mix it up, but he had like double-digit-ish rebounds, I think, in both those games. And they weren't like, oh, the ball just fell right to me with nobody, contesting it kind of stuff. Like he went up and got it over people.
No, I mean, the one game, the Saturday game that we watched, Josh Hamilton was out for that game. Now, he did play on Sunday, but Josh Hamilton is 6'8". He usually kind of fills that 5 position, if you will. But Nate, all of the rebounding was on Nate's shoulders, and he did so, as you said. I mean, I think he ended up averaging like 17 and 10 for the weekend on those 2 games. And then not only that, like just him kind of maneuvering his way around the rim, defensively. It always is going to make guys look. He's getting better with his timing as a shot blocker. Another thing is, like, you don't really see Nate foul a whole lot, and granted, he's not in the mix too much, but he does a great job just with verticality, timing, all that good stuff. That, again, is another wrinkle in his game that could unfold here in the coming years.
You see some of these things in scouting reports about him. It's like, well, he's still pretty raw. And I think that label is slowly fading away here. Every time I've seen him play, like some element of the game looks a little sharper. And just when you move that well offensively at that size, you can move that well defensively at that size too. And to your point about not fouling, like sometimes you see that with guys that are kind of growing into their frame and stuff like that. And they're kind of spazzy sometimes, but he was just so fluid on both ends. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and especially with a guy with his length, like there's probably a lot of shots that he could go and try to block, and probably would get a piece of it. But it's just the timing, the picking and choosing of when to do that. Just as you said, the other thing that's interesting to me with him is, like, everybody knows for the most part when he steps on the floor, he's the best player on the floor. If he comes down and he shoots 15 to 20 shots a game, probably nobody's making a comment, no matter what the efficiency is. However, he's just very willing. Whenever he gets a rebound, he'll lead the break here and there when it calls for it. But more times than not, he's giving it off to a guard. He's getting down. He's getting in his position, getting to his spots, or getting in a set. Like, he's not a guy who's, just going to be out there for the show. He wants to actually, he embraces the philosophy that, Highland is as a team, and
those guys will get it back to him. Like, he feels confident in that.
For sure. I mean, they move it, and they have a lot of heady guards out there that have a really good feel, and it's just it's a really good group.
Yeah, that's cool. Got a comment in the chat here from It Never Makes No Sense. Would you take Nate Ament or Ace Bailey? Any thoughts there? I don't know how much you've seen Ace around the
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, like, Ace has, as I would say, as high as a ceiling of anybody just because of how explosive he is as a scorer. I think when you look at him as from an NBA draft prospect perspective, that's what you want in an NBA player, right? That's why, the conversation between, say, AJ DeMatha and Cooper Flagg, which one's the better prospect? You kind of you lean with AJ because he has the more of the form, of a franchise player. Now, if Ace hits, great. But I think with Nate, it's a little bit more of the safer pick at this point. But I will say, as high as Nate's ceiling is, if Ace Bailey was able to hit. There's not too
Yeah.
many guys on the earth that are gonna match up with that.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, when you just have like Nate's not unathletic, but he's not ace athletic. I mean,
No,
that's a different story.
nope.
Uh, the next kind of guy here I want to mention maybe is just the other really high profile DMV guy, another top 10 guy, this one in the class of 2026. That's Jordan Smith from Paul VI. Didn't end up playing the entire game on Sunday. But on Saturday, like he still can't really shoot it, in my opinion, but it doesn't really matter because he just finds ways to be impactful. Like the dude is built like a brick shit house already, at that age. And he's just gonna get into the lane and make good plays. And I don't know, he does like glue guy stuff as a star player, which you like to see. I think a lot of the things people say about like Cooper Flagg apply to somebody like Jordan. And I don't know, how many of those things do you hear about? And granted, he's not doing it to 6'8" or 6'9" or whatever, but it's still impressive to me that he plays as hard as he does, sort of start to finish, it seems like.
That's where it all stems with too. I think with Cooper, again, when you start comparing him to other guys, it's like you got to look for the constants. You got to look for every time this guy steps on the floor, what's he going to give me? And when you have a player with star potential who is just going to play 100% no matter what, that's huge. And with Jordan, you can go catch him playing in an early game in the season versus maybe a high school that you haven't heard or a public school that makes a trip to PVI. And he's going to play maybe not with the exact same energy with the bright lights that DeMatha, that the event held, but it's going to be similar. It's going to be a similar motor. He's going to get in there. He's going to do his work and he's going to get out. As you said, he just impacted the game in every way. And I think, Matt, I don't want to speak for you, but if you didn't see Jordan when he was a freshman, granted, the jump shot isn't something that you would put on the front page.
It's gotten better already from last year.
Significantly better. And I think more so just his comfort in getting to his spots in the mid-range, pulling up off the dribble, remaining balanced, and having it look smooth. Now it's not a textbook jump shot, but the mechanics on it and the release and everything else, they're clean. So I say that with he's hitting his shots a lot more consistently. I just don't know. He had a few deflections in the first half. He had the assignment, the majority of the game against Darius Acuff, which is just a difficult call for anybody. And Jordan did his thing, but when he gets those deflections and the ball is loose and he gets his hands on it, he's one of those kids that everybody in the gym kind of stands up. And we're talking about a 6'3" on a good day guard, and just gets his chin above the rim, plays with the ultimate, confidence and toughness, and he'll go and guard 6'8" Sadiq White. You can move him all over the floor and he'll make an impact. Huge. And it's fun to watch. Like we're two guys in terms of like, and we're arguably obviously two of the top 5 guys in the DMV, but 2 top 5 prospects, in my opinion, in the respective class in the country. And what they hone in on is how hard they play, how consistent they are, and how they fit within the team scheme. And I think that is something that's a breath of fresh air, as you will, just because we're so used to these guys dominating the game. And yes, it'll work sometimes, but then when it doesn't, it's rough to watch. And I think with Jordan, his two-way impact is obvious. And his energy this year, like I was talking with somebody while that game was going on. And again, I want to preface this where there's absolutely no rumors of this happening, but I feel like I would be confident in saying Jordan fits that mold. Is like, does he really need an extra year high? Does he really need another year high school?
He's college ready. I'm totally with you.
Just like Jaden Quayton's. Now, not on that same physical form as a 6'8" big, but you could throw Jordan in a college game next year and he would figure it out because he's used to it. So, to say that in itself I feel like is a huge accomplishment, but he's just proven himself on so many of the big stages that it is, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
I think it was interesting seeing him directly compared to Darius Acuff because they're very different players, but they're both highly, respected guys. And if you can't guard somebody like Acuff had a great game. Like, he's just really hard for anybody, any team overall to stop at that level. But
I mean, I think Darius's floor game was. I mean, I know I wrote it in my articles over at Made Hoops, but it was the best floor game that I've seen in a long time.
He's so good.
Because, I mean, Matt, I'm sure you're familiar with his game, but Darius is more so of or has been known as being more of a score first mentality point guard. And I mean, he was just throwing that thing in every direction. Sadiq White and Kareem Stagg, they would just appear out of nowhere, the other end of the lob, but it was all dictated off of him. And I'm not saying that Jordan completely stopped that, but on that night, I'm not sure there's many defenders in the high school realm that could have, just because I think Darius was that locked in.
Yeah, it was really impressive to watch, and I think that makes him that much harder to guard an offensive player when he's willing to get other people involved. But I thought the thing that Jordan was doing that was really smart was anytime he ended up with Darius on him, he attacked him on the other side, and Darius ended up fouling out of that game, and I think that was a huge piece down the stretch there.
No, for sure. You mentioned it. It completely kind of slipped my mind, but yeah, just Jordan. I mean, that's what I said. Like, Jordan getting to his spots and for the mid range pulls, like that's one thing. But when the kid gets downhill and if there's a sliver of light to get to the rim, good luck.
And what I said about his shooting, like he's not a plus shooter, I would say.
Sure.
Like he can make shots, but that makes him even more impressive because you just with a head of steam, you can't stay in front of a guy like that. And if he ever does shoot it, you're tough. But like you said, you could. I think any team in the country could use a guy like that, and that's what makes him so appealing a prospect. Maybe just for both him and Nate, like any sense for where these guys are leaning in their respective recruitments. Obviously, Jordan's a little further away here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to say right now, especially with Nate. I mean, he's going on. He's still taking his visits.
Yep.
Which, at this point seems kind of late in the process, but this is just, his journey.
The new world too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know, he went out to Notre Dame and Micah Shrewsbury was there on Sunday for him. That's kind of like a sneaky one just to kind of watch. Tennessee is in play for sure. And I think they're, definitely a team to be monitored with him, but, just other programs, Louisville with their success, it's looking more like, they're going to be getting, a really talented point guard in Mikel Brown, who Nate Ament is very familiar with. So, we'll see there. Mikel still has to make his decision. But no, it's really tough. And I think Nate is looking for a specific situation that's going to fit his game and really bolster his development. Obviously, I think that's the key of it all. It's not the biggest number is going to win. That's not where we are with Nate because, again, he's the type of prospect we're not going to decide off. I'm just throwing numbers out here, 1 in 2 million. If the 1 million places means that I'm going to put myself in a better draft scenario. So, there's still a lot to unfold with that. I'm not sure when he's even going to be coming to a decision. I did hear maybe like February, but it's not something that, it could change. Those things could change, as we saw with who else was decided in February? AJ DeBanson, he's off the board,
exactly.
Right? Yep. And then when you go over to Jordan, I mean, he's been on visits to Syracuse. Obviously, Duke is in there. They're going to try to work that PVI pipeline. But, Georgetown, they were almost a full staff deep for him. So his is still kind of in the works too. As you said, it's early. I expect that to pick up. It'll be a who's who on the sideline for him this spring and summer. Because what I will say is, when he was playing up, on 17s last year with TakeOver, it wasn't only the college coaches that were noticing, it was NBA scouts. And, just in terms of like, when he's hitting that mid-range jumper, well, he plays hard and the way that he impacts the game without the ball, and then he can do some things with the ball too. And then look at him on defense and he's guarding multiple positions. Like, I don't want to, he's a player that you can, this isn't a negative, like put in a box per se, and really see where he fits at say the highest level. And I'm just throwing a name out there. But maybe like kind of like a Marcus Smart type of guy where he really
the actual first name that came to mind.
Yeah, because he really hangs his hat on the defensive end. That's where he can kind of like earn his money, if you will. But like, make no mistake, he's not a negative on the offensive end at all.
Right. Yeah, high school and college Marcus Smart especially was an actual bucket, and like this
Yeah,
is not what he's needed to do in the NBA, but doesn't mean that he couldn't score at that level too.
absolutely.
Another super impressive guy, actually, a couple of Jordan Smith's teammates at PVI I thought were cool. Jaquan Womack already seems like a steal to me. Like Towson, like they're doing good things there already. A couple of their other guys in that recruiting class, like a John Barton, guys like that, I think make a lot of sense for them. But Womack's like long and he moves well and he's just active. I know you wrote him up as a guy you were impressed with in that game, but he was someone I kind of took note of. And then Adlan Elamin, I thought was another guy. It's like he's going to Utah State. I don't know how that one played out, but he's another dude. It feels like after a year we might look at him and see a reclass or an up level to a Power 5 from either or both of those guys, just because when you're 6'8" and you move the way both those guys move, there's a lot of teams I think they could value a player like that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Jaquan, I've always been a fan of Jaquan. Again, he fits in that Jordan Smith mold of like the kid's just going to play hard. And that's that's why he fits so well at Towson. He's a Pat Scary guy. I tweeted something out of when he committed, but I've since like tweaked it. It's like just to relate more to the kids. If someone hands you a controller in 2K and you got to create a player, if Pat Scary has a controller, it's more than likely going to be Jaquan Womack.
Yeah.
So, he just embodies everything that he does in terms of a physical fighter. Just some things may not be pretty, but it is what it is. And we're going to get the job done. And when the final buzzer sounds, more than likely, we're going to be winning. He does things that, don't show up on the box score. I think the progression of his game since he was a freshman, which, as a freshman, and I don't want to screw it up, but I'm pretty sure he had the game-winning tip in the WCAC championship as a freshman.
Wow.
So, he's used to playing under the big lights. You have to be if you are playing at PVI and team takeover, and that's what he's done. But over the years, you saw it, Matt. I think the same, I would say, quote unquote, blemish in his game was, or a lot of programs that were when they were recruiting was, well, can he shoot? Like he's kind of limited skill wise, and
look like it's coming around big time on Saturday.
I don't know what you thought about it, but when he hit those back-to-back threes, I've seen Jaquan make shots before. But just like with Jordan, he has the capability to shoot,
right?
But he's also, even as a freshman, he's looking around, he's seeing all these kids going to Duke and all these other, Power 5 programs. And maybe I shouldn't be taking a bunch of jump shots. Maybe I should just be finding other ways to be effective. That's what Jaquan did as well. Now I'm not saying Jaquan's going to have a game where he nails 8 or 9 threes, but that sequence alone spoke volumes. And then again, like the biggest thing is he's never been predicated on, I'm going to bust my tail because I'm making shots now. No, that's just who he is. And then really quick shift into Adlan Elamin. It was a very interesting recruitment. I mean, he had VCU after him as well. He went on the Utah State visit, loved it, and just kind of closed the deal. But he's more of I would say he's more of a long-term than I'd say Jaquan. Yeah, and you can tell that by his frame. He passes the eye test. He's 6'8", 6'9", plus wingspan. I know he didn't show it off too much this weekend per se, but he can really shoot it when he's going. Once he continues to learn how to play, sky's the limit for him. So I think, as you said, maybe as an upperclassman, he might be on a lot of the radars of, potential Power 5 programs.
Yeah, they just both look the part, right? And I think that's a big piece of it when you have those kind of tools. And I don't know, man, something about Utah State, no matter who the coach is there, they're always like sneaky good and they put out good guys. So maybe not a bad move from him. Just shifting gears here a little bit. Terps fans listening to this will want an update here. Chris Jeffrey is just like an automatic paint touch to me. Like, and the left-hand finishing is always cool to see. Like he seems just as comfortable going left as right. And I don't know. He's a tough one, man. Like, and he had obviously a huge shot. I don't know if anybody's seen this clip, posted yet, but he banks in a 3 at the buzzer to win the game. He's a gamer and he's physical and took a couple bad shots, but like also was just, like he was just kind of in the zone, I think, and that's going to happen. But he does more good than bad, and he's another guy that just seems like a Kevin Willard kind of guy. So it makes sense to me.
He's just a winner, man. I mean, especially this year for Mount Zion. Obviously they're still undefeated. I think they're 13-0 now.
Mhm.
And I was talking with him after they beat Huntington Prep, their prep school. I wish he could just sit down for like 2 weeks, because I mean, if you're watching him when he's running, it just looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's not how he usually is. He
Mhm.
came into the season dealing with some back stuff, and now I think his knees just kind of tweaked, and it's not an injury per se, it's just an overusage type of thing.
Yep.
But he is the bell cow for this Mount Zion team.
It's the
And
engine, man. Like,
yeah,
everything revolved around him.
and they played. I know the more the local crowd was not I would say too aware of who Bella Vista was, but that's a good team.
Yeah.
And I thought Chris got off to a rough start. He had a few turnovers, just whether it was bouncing off his foot or, what have you. You got a couple carry calls on him in ball screens. But so I was kind of worried in that first quarter. Mount Zion fell down. And then, towards the end of the second quarter, you kind of started sensing it. But then once they came out of halftime, it was kind of like, okay, now I'm going to take this over. We're not losing this game now. That isn't say Bella Vista went away. As you said, it took a 30-foot heave that banked in from Chris. But, it's like no one was more deserving than that after that performance that he had. And as you said, I think he fits the mold of Kevin Willard. I think that was a big thing of why he chose Maryland. He's not going to kill you with athleticism. He's not the quickest guy in the world, but he just knows angles. He has a body to help him get where he needs to get. And I know a lot of people on message boards or whatnot are kind of, DHS is another name that came to us with that body and couldn't shoot. And
they're not remotely that similar as players. I mean,
Chris is a true point guard, man. Like he's a true point guard that loves to get his team involved. I feel like he only scores because he has to score on this particular team. There's no other primary playmakers. But yeah, just a guy that you would want in your locker room. And if you are trying to build a culture of just tough, nasty guys who aren't going to back down to, any physical play and just keep coming at you, it's Chris Jeffrey. And a lot of guys, especially at the high school level, they fold for that type of stuff. And I think Chris just embraces it, and off to a 13-0 start on a pretty challenging schedule. That says something.
Yeah, I think like Maryland fans, I think have been overall pretty pleased with the way his former teammate Malachi Palmer has looked. It would not surprise me if Chris Jeffrey was more impactful from a freshman, maybe with Jacoby there, that there's landlocked up to a certain amount of minutes, but I think he'll be ready to go day one for a team like that. Also enjoyed both of his teammates in Emmanuel Kanga and Favour Ibe. They're great fit. Tony Skinn will love a guy like that. He can kind of fill like the Woody Newton role when Woody graduates here, like of that versatile forward that can guard a lot of different people and switch up and down the lineup. So that's cool. And then Ibe is just a big, tall, athletic guy that I think is only going to add more skill as he grows too.
Yeah, I mean, Kanga is just an endless motor. I mean, he tore his ACL, so he's coming off a torn ACL. Since then, his frame is really leaned out, but the good thing is that explosiveness didn't go anywhere. If anything, I think he's even more explosive after the injury. So when he was, sidelined from much of, AAU and whatnot, a lot of teams got quiet on him because they were still trying to get a feel for just exactly how good he was. Credit to George Mason for remaining consistent. I know, teams like Loyola Chicago were very good program. They were kind of sniffing in. So he was getting recruited by, very high level A10 teams. Still very, I would say, a limited skill set at this point, but a double machine who's going to block shots violently, rip down rebounds. I think he had 16 and 14 in that win.
He was just at the rim putting stuff back. And I was like, how did he even get in there to get that ball? I mean, just the whole game.
He's got good hands. He runs the floor. He does what he's asked. And as you said, that's half the battle with these high school prospects. And when you go to a league, say like the A10, where there's a lot of transfer heavy teams and you're going to be playing against grown men. I mean, you need a guy like Emmanuel Kanga who is going to give the effort and do all the little things, as you said. And then with Favour Ibe, I mean, he's still extremely raw, as you can tell, Matt, but 7'1". We've seen a few flashes from him this year where He's had big dunks. It's starting to come together a little bit more consistently, but that is going to be a slow burning process. Now, when he gets it, it could take off really quick, or it could take him a year or two in college to really try to find his niche and find where he's most stable at. But some of the biggest programs in the country are after him.
It makes sense. Yeah. Just guys that are that big and move the way I think he'll be able to move, especially as he gets stronger and frame all that stuff fill out. Like he'll be a tough ask. Any other name here just to close us out that you think is worth shouting out that we haven't talked about yet?
No, I mean, nobody that like I would say, jumps off the page to me in terms of like, you have to mention them. I mean, I will say, obviously with Acaden Lewis being another huge name, Sidwell is a team that is down Jalen Rougeron with not a ton of talent to spare as is. A lot of people didn't know Acaden was playing with a swelling on his ankle that was probably the size of a golf ball or a softball. Okay. But he just plays. And the thing is, man, like he'll go play a game or he'll go to practice, and then he takes a 45-minute drive up to Lansdowne, Maryland, and gets with his trainer. So like there's a lot of unseen work that he does that when people see him like, oh man, well, he didn't do this and he's not posting these numbers to screen Kentucky. The kid's built very, I don't want to say built differently everybody else says, but he's built for what's ahead of him. And I think that, he may have had I would say a rougher game or so Saturday night. He bounced back. They beat PVI, which is a huge win. They just beat Georgetown Prep last night, which is another huge win. So, they have a lot of the younger prospects that you get a couple big wins like that, you get things rolling. We'll see what comes of it. But, really just other guys on teams. I do want to say one prospect from the Philly area that I really enjoyed watching was Luca Foster from Archbishop Carroll.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him, but he was tough.
I don't know. Did you get to see that game?
I did, yeah. Okay. It was a very ugly basketball game, but he looked like the best player in it with a 5-star recruit too.
Yeah, no man, he was they played Westchester, who has Trevor Ariza's son. So and Taj had a good game, not up to his standards. Taj is usually much better, but hey, it happens. But Luca, man, he is a prospect that is trending upward and very quickly. I would say he had a really good spring and summer with team final. And he's one of those kids that, has grown into his body now, and the skill set, was already there. But now that he's starting to adjust to his frame, the ceiling is, I would say, very high for Luca. And then, I would just say, another guy, an out-of-town guy who really impressed me. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you've seen I've been, posting a lot about him, was Junior County from Wasatch Academy. Yeah, man, I was just really impressed with his overall efficiency. 6'4" guard, gets to his spots, knocks down shots, is very aware of getting others involved and playing within a flow. Just a good size and good ability. There's some, he went on an official to Purdue, so Maryland fans, could be familiar with him in the future. But Houston, BYU, and Utah and TCU, and there's going to be a lot more to join that party to come in here. So just a few other names to, the out-of-town names to look at. But nevertheless, it was a great event, and just a lot of, we could go on for 2 hours if we really wanted to stretch and talk about all of these guys. But just a really fun time to specifically live where we live, Matt.
Well, the only other name I want to leave folks with, just because I thought he was just like a do-it-all kind of guy for his team, was Kade Sebastian from DeMatha. Just not the highest profile name out there. He's going to go to American, so I pay attention to those other guys playing for local schools, and just thought like it's like cliche, but like he was just playing the right way and doing the right stuff. And I know he hit a big shot for them on Sunday at the end too. So
he played great Sunday. That's what and that's what Kade usually does. There's another guy on that DeMatha team who is still available, Charles Thomas, who is consistently productive, who I think is a really good name for low majors to look into. But with Kade specifically, had a great game Sunday, and I was happy for it because, Dwayne Simpkins was right there watching him.
That's awesome.
I think American is a great fit, but as you said, just a really safe type of wing off-ball guard, 6'4", makes shots, always seems to be in the right spot defensively. And as you saw, like he'll get in the mix for rebounds and just do the small things that can translate to the next level.
Yeah, great. Another great fit for where he's ending up. Colby, thank you, man. This is awesome. Always the most important question of the show. Where can people find more of the great content you offer?
Yeah, appreciate it as always, Matt. So on Twitter, I'm at Colby G Hoops. Over on Instagram, I'm at Colby G Scouting. And then for the content, I would really lock in with madehoops.com right now. We have a lot of guys in different areas covering, the country and where they live. But specifically, that's where all my DMV centric, coverage is going to be found. And then with all things Maryland recruiting and Terps recruiting, Inside Maryland Sports, try to stay up to date with that. So any following or any anything you guys can do to help out with those would be very appreciated.
Yeah, as a junkie of this kind of content, I appreciate everything you do. So thank you for that. And a recent subscriber to Made Hoops. It's been worth it completely so far. I got my year-long subscription, so I'm locked in and
thanks, man.
I'm ready to go.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you.
All right, everybody, you know the drill. Hit the like button for us on YouTube if you're watching this. Rate, review, subscribe. Those things are always appreciated. We are presented by betonline.ag, and we'll catch you all next time.